election headquarters. This is Texoma Politics Now.
Good morning and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Nicholas Kwolek. Well, next month, voters within the WFISD will be heading to the polls as the school district proposes a tax change that could give the school district an extra $1.4 million per year while also decreasing the tax rate. It's through a tax ratification election. Here's how it'll work. There are two sides of a tax rate: maintenance and operations and the sinking and interest. Only the ISD fund can be used for paying bond debt, and the M&O dollars can also be used to pay debt. But those funds are typically used for paying salaries, building improvements, and school programs. Now, through a process called the swap and drop, now to trigger the election, the WFISD school board moved to adopt a tax rate of $1.35 for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. By voting for the tax ratification, the INS tax rate, which is currently at 18 cents, will be dropped to zero, as you see there, and the maintenance and operation tax will increase from $1.04 to $1.17. This would cause the tax rate to decrease from $1.22 to $1.17. If the ordinance fails to pass, the district will continue with the current tax rate of $1.22. Now, the Wichita Falls ISD's Board of Trustees called for a tax ratification election on May 14th. Early voting will take place May 29th through June 11th. And you'll be able to vote at Sykes Center Mall and the WFISD Education Building. Election day is June 15th. Now, we just gave you a lot of numbers, so here to explain a little bit more on this is the WFISD Superintendent, Michael Kurt. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
So this process is obviously sounds very complicated to viewers. How do you all plan on making it a little bit easier to digest?
Well, I think the main thing voters need to understand is this is our way of maximizing state revenue that could be coming back to WFISD. Currently, with our current debt of 18 cents is 100% voter funded debt. By moving the debt to the M&O side of the tax equation, now the state's going to kick in their share of funding for schools, which for us is 60%. So basically the state's then going to be funding 60% of our current debt, where right now we fund 100% of it.
Now, this swap and drop method is nothing new. School districts from Frisco to Keller have done this. Why do you believe this is the best option for the WFISD?
Well, because we're a property poor district, and we are the 33rd lowest funded district in the state of Texas, this maximizes state revenue coming back to us. And so any dollar we can get from the state to help us educate the students of Wichita Falls ISD, I think is a good move.
As you said, you all are in the bottom 3% in the state per student for revenue. Why is that for people who may not understand?
So back in the 2003, 2005 legislative sessions, they compressed tax rates, and that year we were held harmless at an amount. School districts across the state, whatever your total collections were that year, you were held to that number per student. And we, obviously in Wichita Falls, all of our local districts around Wichita County have a lower per pupil funding rate than some other outlying counties because of that compression that happened back 15 years ago now. Okay. And so therefore we're just a low funded district.
So why is that revenue per student important?
$8,040 per student is what we get. There are districts in the state that get $5,000, $6,000, even $10,000 more per student than we get. And so anything we can do to enhance revenue, which gives us more options for programs, we offer more services to students, things like that. This TRE, we're focused on facilities. Our facilities are in such need of capital improvements. The additional $1.4 million will go a long way to doing that.
As we said, if passed, you would bring in the extra $1.4 million annually. What do you all plan to do with that money?
So roofs, HVAC systems, they're built to last 20 years. And at the end of 20 years, it's time for a new one. And to replace a $2 million roof, that's expensive, and we just don't have that in our regular operating budget. So the fact that we could bring in an additional $1.4 million a year helps us a lot with that.
When you all called for this election, we had a lot of viewers reach out to us, many of them concerned, saying, well, you would lower the tax rate now, but sort of do a, I guess if you want to call it a bait and switch.
I've heard that.
Yeah. How is the district going to be transparent about that?
I think we have TV stations here in town, local newspapers here in town that will hold us accountable to that. Our board is committed to being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and there really would not be a reason for us to ever go back and change that. In other words, increase our INS tax rate to pay off our current bond debt, which is all they can do, is increase signs to pay off current bond debt. We have 15 years remaining on our current bond debt. If our property values go down, the state sends us more money. The property values go up, the state sends us less money. And so that 13 cents of M&O revenue more than covers our bond debt, which is currently about $9.6 million a year. And so with that revenue, we have to pay that off. So I think our board is committed. Our board's made a promise. And I don't see them not keeping that promise.
And possibly looking at a bond in November as well?
That's a possibility. We do have facility issues.
Right, as you said.
And by working on with our long-range facility working groups that we've had, they had a presentation yesterday to the board, and we're going to start over the summer planning for secondary school improvements, elementary school improvements, and obviously anything like that would go to the voters again, and the voters would have to approve changes.
Talking about changes, the long-range facility group presented possible bond options to the board to have some big ideas, such as creating new high schools and renovating some of the middle schools and closing some others. That's another possibility. How will that process go as far as narrowing down those ideas?
Well, over the next 2 months, we have 6 meetings scheduled right now that the board will discuss those options. Administration, myself, we will be bringing them options. We will be bringing them cost figures. We're going to bring them how we finance that, bring them tax implications, what it looks like as far as tax rate goes, and all of that, and sharing that with them. And then by the 1st of August is when they have to act to call a school bond for November.
A lot of ideas, some good, maybe some people view them not so good, but do you think the city and the voters are ready for these big changes?
I think what I've figured out is that across the district, everyone agrees we need to do something with facilities. It's coming to consensus on what that something is, I think, is where we're having struggles. Because we have our community schools and we have our neighborhoods where we don't want to lose that identity. And so I think we value that. We're very concerned about that. At the same time, our facilities, we have 7 facilities that are almost 100 years old. And continuing to do school in those facilities is really hard. And so I think we can put together something, and my goal, and I've said this before, is that we come up with a bond package that the Wichita Falls ISD community can support. So whatever that is, I'm good with that.
Finally, for those people who may have their students graduating this year or don't have students at all, and they say, you know, this is not my responsibility, I'm leaving town. If not now, when and who? Correct.
I totally believe that. I think that's an economic development issue for Wichita Falls. I think if you don't have children in school and they've already graduated, do you want your grandchildren to be raised here, or do you want to travel elsewhere to go see your grandkids? I think if you're going to live in our community and you want to have qualified healthcare workers, if you want to have people to fix your HVAC and plumbing issues when you have them, we have to keep an educated workforce. And I think improving our schools and making sure that our students have what they need is pretty essential.
All right, Superintendent Kurt, thank you so much.
Thanks for the time.